I just committed to a new building I can't pay for, whatever it is. I mean, those
Mm-hmm.
stresses as an entrepreneur are totally different than they were before. And then, of course, running a campaign like I did, where the number one race in the country for our body. I mean, getting absolutely destroyed. We were the most expensive political race in American history on a per
Crazy.
capita basis. And as you know, the vast majority of that was spent by the other side, just assaulting my business, trying to put our company out of business, going after my family, our friends, our business partners, destroying, trying to just tear apart your life and smear you and turn you into a terrible person. Imagine almost $250 million being spent on just plastering your face everywhere and making you look like a bad person. So,
Personal
every
attacks.
day it would be like, man, like I fought for this country, I bled for this country, I fought for Republicans and Democrats. It's not like when I fought a war, fighting wildfire. I don't look
Mm-hmm.
fun to be playing and decide I'm only protecting Republican houses or Democrat houses. I fought for these people who are now trying to destroy me. So, it's tough. So to your point though, you've got to figure out what that. First of all, you've got to be comfortable with who you are. You've got to self-actualize. And I think that the way to be the most mentally tough ever is the self-actualization of realizing that I know who I am. I know what I believe in. I know what my faith tells me.
Mm-hmm.
Faith and whatever your faith is, whatever religion is, or maybe you're not religious, but for me, I am. It's like my faith in God, my faith in my family, my wife, my kids. I know that whatever happens on the battlefield, in training, in my business, or in politics, I will love my wife, she'll love me. I love my four kids, and I can sleep well knowing that every decision I made with the betterment of their lives and in accordance with my faith and my values. And that
Yep.
doesn't mean everyone has to agree with me. It doesn't mean I got to make the right decision every time, but I know absolutely, absolutely that every decision I've made was made for the betterment of my community, my family, and my country.
Mm-hmm.
I think having that kind of keel, that North Star helps because it keeps everything in perspective. And when you try to chase short-term gratification, I think that's where you start getting distracted. You start trying to do other things. You start losing your focus on what that end goal is. And I liken it to dive bombers. There was a painting I'd look at. I'm actually getting it painted. It was a Google image that I'd look at during,
Yep.
especially the campaign when I was every day getting, just hit from every direction, accused of all these random things every single day. And I'd look at that painting, and it was a dive bomber bombing onto a Japanese aircraft carrier in World War II. And that pilot has got the aircraft carrier in his crosshairs, and he's got one bomb to drop. And they're shooting at him because they see his planes coming to the carrier, and they're shooting everything they have at that plane, trying to get him before he drops that one bomb to sink that carrier. And that pilot's got one job to do, which is don't get distracted, do not let all the flak knock you off target. The reason you're shooting at you is because you're on target and you're coming and they see you and they're
Yep.
trying to knock you off. So the one thing you got to do is hold that target, don't flinch, and get the job done.
Yeah, you can't let those outside distractions come in. I love that answer so much because I do think the more folks that I've heard from and the more that us as an organization have dove into the topic of mental toughness, it is more and more obvious to me that it is really connected to self mastery, and it's a mastery of mind, body, spirit. And once the three of those are in alignment, then you can make decisions that are the best decision regardless of the outcome. So you are able to self-sacrifice for the good of your family or the good of your community or the good of your country, even knowing that you might die in that journey, but that mindset is at peace with that because of that self-mastery. And I think that is a really what you were explaining there, and I think that is spot on from what I've been learning from a lot of different backgrounds, and so I really appreciate that answer.
Well, and if you've ever seen the show Band of Brothers, I think it was one of the best things ever put on a screen. There was Captain Spears at one point, made a very powerful comment that I think is true, having been in close combat. You almost have to accept on the battlefield that you're already dead in a way. Like, you know, my life is already been laid upon the altar for my unit,
Mhm.
for my men, for my team, for my country. And when you almost accept the fact that that is a potential outcome, and you're not so afraid of having it happen, you can behave in the heat of battle in a way that is for the absolute best benefit of your unit and your men.
Hmm.
And it allows you to make decisions far more clear. You're not making decisions out of fear or self-preservation. You're making decisions out of a very clairvoyant position of what can I do to win this battle right now? What can I do to not just kill the enemy, but bring my men home?
Yeah.
And I think it lets you transcend and opens up your aperture. And just like it's not a perfect comparison, but it is a comparison. When you're doing one of your workouts, when you're in one of those circuits where you're at the 70% mark's always the worst because you're over
Yeah.
halfway, but you're not close enough to the finish where you're almost, when you're at that 90%, I just got to push another 10%. It's in that last third,
Yeah.
man, I am smoked. I'm almost done, but I still got a long way to go, and I'm hurting
Yeah.
right now. And that's kind of when you embrace the suck. And I think that's an important aspect too, is in any of these periods of time, whether it's workout, military training, combat, entrepreneurs, and politics, there's a time when everything sucks so bad, and it sucks, and that's that low point. That's that point
Hmm.
when people throw in the towel. And if maybe either they quit outright or maybe they don't quit, but they flinch and they lose focus at that last moment. That dive bomber pilot, instead of staying on target, he dodges and flinches, and now he's off target, and the whole mission was for naught. You've got to that's the point where the wheat separated from the chaff. When those
Yeah.
when the true leaders stay focused and don't flinch when it's the most painful, when it's the hardest, when you feel the most alone, you just stay focused and you drive all the way to the end. And it's that low point where you really figure out who's there to stay.
For sure. And it's coming, those low points are coming for us all.
Exactly.
Well, Senator Sheehy, I appreciate your time. I know you have to run, but thank you so much for what you're doing for the country, what you're doing for Montana, and really appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate you having me on. Let's do it again sometime.